Welcome to the November 3rd, 2022 Parma City School Board District of Education meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Present.
Mrs. Carpus.
Present.
Mr. Price.
Present.
Mr. Ruda.
Present.
Mr. Vaughn.
Present. Dr. Smollett, can you please confirm that this meeting is currently being live streamed?
Yes, it is.
And as usual, can you please monitor the live streaming throughout the meeting? And if there is a problem, please speak up immediately so that the technical difficulty can be addressed.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. This brings us to school presentations, Dr. Smiley.
We have two schools that are looking forward to presenting this evening. Shiloh Middle School and Parma Senior High, led by Mr. Andy Sittel and Mr. Todd Griffin, respectively. We drew straws beforehand, and we'll start with Parma Senior High.
Awesome. Hi everyone, thanks for having us here today. We're really excited to share some things happening at Parma Senior High. Most excited to share to recognize some of our phenomenal staff here tonight. I'll kind of follow the same format as previous presentations with some achievement data strengths, resilient learner strengths, talk a little bit about some weaknesses or some concerns that we're trying to address, interesting facts, and then we'll move on. So my first strength that we're going to start off with was some achievement scores that we were proud of. So as you can see, our American Government, our AP US History, both had proficient scores that were high and exceeded state average. We're really proud of that. I also wanted to mention our biology last year achieved a 10% bump from the previous year, which is significant for that test. The why. It's always a tough thing, and I'm really going to focus on our social studies department in those first two tests. When last year we spent a lot of time really trying to focus on instructional conversations, focused in our TBTs, which are teacher-based teams, and really focus on the process. And when we as administrators look at that, we can say our social studies department is doing a phenomenal job. So they're staying really true to that process. They spend a lot of time analyzing questions as well as their short cycle assessment student responses. And then not only do they spend time just analyzing it, they take it back to their classrooms and really do some interventions based on that. You can find them really analyzing questions, really trying to pull the correct evidence from them. And you can also find them doing, at different times, providing those interventions. We have some of our social studies teachers that came in on Saturdays to provide some interventions, so it's kind of cool. Our second achievement strength is we had 6 tested subjects that met or exceeded the state expectation for progress and growth. Progress and growth is taking a student from point A to point B. So to meet those state expected standards for that is a significant achievement to say we're taking our students and we're growing them throughout the year. Why? Again, sort of our focus last year became really trying to create instructional conversations and really try to focus on district initiatives. We spent a lot of time on read, write, and discuss. As administrators, we were in classes 747 times last year, and our data indicated that consistently our teachers in those subject areas our focus last year was on writing and daily writing, but we were consistently seeing read, write, and discusses. So we were proud of the results that I feel happened from that. Our weakness, and it's sort of tied to a lot of things. There's depth to this, but our weakness right now is our low graduation rate, and those are again. There's a lot of factors there that you can dive into, but what we're looking at this year right now is that we believe our low graduation rate is tied to our failure rates early in our students' academic careers as ninth graders and eighth graders. So we're trying to address those in a way I'll mention in a minute. Our attendance is also a concern. At the end of the day, if you pull out some of our students that have chronic attendance, if you pull them out of our scores are going to increase, obviously, which is a good indicator that our teachers are teaching and the kids are in classes, they're learning. But we still have a responsibility to get those students into school, and we're trying really a lot of things to try and get them into school. So here are the plan for what we're doing, and some of our conversations right now, one of the things focused in my mind is sort of short-term and long-term. Short-term meaning those kids that should have graduated and didn't in the last year or two. So this year, our PASS program, we've done a few differences. We have a different instructor in there. We've moved the PASS location from all the way next to the Red Reese room to in the building where we actually have a little bit of monitoring. Teacher in there has done an absolutely phenomenal job of goal setting, monitoring students daily. We have a spreadsheet where there's daily, this is the percent that these students are reaching. To tremendous success. So in the first quarter alone in the PASS program, of those students that didn't graduate last year, 21.5, we've recovered 21.5 credits and 5 graduates. So from that number, we have 5 graduates right now for the first quarter, so that's a success. Our credit recovery program for those students who are younger ages, 9, 10, 11 grade students, those are students that are meeting after school for credit recovery, and right now we've recovered 14 credits, so we're making some progress there. I would also wanted to mention our home liaison. This is now tackling those longer term issues, those bigger factors in the graduation rate. Our Ms. Gramuglia is doing it, we probably overwork her. But if you talk to her, she knows everything about students. We had some lists of students that I met with her about a couple weeks ago, and every student she could tell me what's going on. So trying to reach out to those families to get them here is an important part of the graduation rate. The other things that we're doing, the last 3, instruction, intervention, and mental health. In our classrooms, we're really focused this year on engagement, trying to engage students early, keep them engaged so they don't experience those failures early, which then result in sort of that mental, oh, I'm done, I can't succeed. So we're trying to focus on that. Our intervention, we have lunch and learns. We're trying to get our 8th grade students up into classrooms a couple times a week for some intervention on IXL program. We've also created a small house in our 9th grade who tutors students every 6th period, I believe. All right, so we're trying to do those things to catch those students early. And ultimately with graduation rate, mental health is something that our counselors are also working at, trying to meet with students who are experiencing not just behavioral concerns, or not just academic concerns, but behavioral concerns too, to try and keep them in school. On the other side, and this is sort of where I think Parma is, when I came to Parma last year, one of the things is that we really have a belief in wrapping around our students. So right now we have a very strong reward system. I know everyone's heard about our PBIS store, and that's what's mentioned up here. But really it's the belief that we are always constantly trying to reward our students. Part of the PBIS store, and there's some pictures there for you, that's really unique about it, not just that it rewards students on a tier 1 level, but we also involve other areas of the building. So our MD students are the students that are actually running the store when it's open every other week. Our business students are actually doing the data, the inventory, so it's pulling in other groups to that. We've also really done a nice job with our tier 2 and our tier 3 interventions. Those are for students that are, maybe the tier 1 isn't hitting them, maybe they need some extra supports. So at the tier 2 level, we have small groups, as I just mentioned, with our counselors. We do check and connect with students that are struggling with either behaviors or academic concerns. Last year we talked a lot about restorative circles, and we had some really nice success in some classrooms that were having some management problems. We performed some restorative circles, and we had data around improved behaviors in those. We do mentoring programs at, right now we've focused on 11th and 12th graders academically, but we're really going to try this year and focus on mentoring some younger students who are data's indicating that they're struggling a little bit. Mr. Knapp, our deputy principal, has also instituted 5-minute teacher meetings. That's sort of restorative conversations around maybe a student's being a challenge for a teacher. he gets the teacher and student together, and we have a 5-minute meeting where there's some parameters around it, and there's been some nice success with that too. And then lastly, we spent a lot of time last year working with Katie Cook, our behavior specialist, to really hit those students who are struggling for Tier 3. So those were some strengths. Part of our weakness is, and I'll be honest, this year is a struggle. There's a lot of students who are coming to us broken, staff who are concerned about next. But we're working through it. But the weakness right now is the management of the volume of that. So again, we're really just trying to refine how we're getting those supports to all the people that need the support. But you know, again, if I come back to when I think about Parma High, it's that we really wrap ourselves around the idea that we need to support, not just academically, but in a lot of different areas. Interesting fact, I'm going to start with an interesting fact that I just found out. Parma Senior High students made all those nice wooden cards there, so that's awesome. Interesting fact though is deals with our PBIS program. As a high school level, you very rarely see a high school achieve gold status. So last year we applied for gold status, and we were the only high school in our region to receive that designation. So pretty cool. In my mind, that's a really nice, you know, what I said is it's what I think about when I think of our school, our caring people. So it's a good thing. Now the best part of the presentation is our staff. So I have 2 certified staff to recognize. I'd first like to recognize Ms. Shannon Studier. Ms. Shannon Studier is an intervention specialist. She's supposed to come up right now.
No, you're going to go through all 4, and then all 4 will come up and we'll take a picture.
Awesome. So Ms. Studier, and you can see right there I wrote intervention support. She is our intervention specialist, but her value to the building is incredible. She is constantly working with students individually, working with students within her class assignments. She's pulling kids at times. She often doesn't take a lunch because she's meeting students. Our teachers have come to go to Ms. Studier, even if she doesn't have the student on her caseload, because they know that she'll come and work with those students. So Ms. Studier is really a value to Parma Senior High. Our next certified staff is Tracy Large. Tracy is a Spanish teacher in the building. You can see I put there student engagement. Instructionally, Tracy's incredible. As I told you, our building focuses on student engagement. I'm going to tell the story of Dr. Smiley comes to visit once a month, and we go into classrooms. And I went to Tracy and said, Tracy, Dr. Smiley's going to come next Monday. And she was like, what period? It was 6 periods. She said, oh my God, that's my worst period. No, it's not. No, it's not. Just don't do what you do. And the thing that Tracy does incredible is her pace. And just she engages students in different ways, at different levels, on just a continuous loop of just, I'm going to just continue to check. We came into class, I left with Dr. Smiley, and his first word was exactly about that, pace and engagement. And then when I told Dr. Smiley that's her most challenging class, he was amazed because kids were on task and perfect. So Tracy Large, thank you very much. For someone else to do that. All right, we get to our classified staff, which is really the backbone of our building. And that's a great picture, Justin. I saw you back there. So listen, Miss Justin Halaska is our residency officer this year in our building. Justin so he's new to the building. So the word I've used there to describe Justin is relationships. And he very, very quickly has established an important presence within our building, in our hallways. But more importantly, Mr. Halaska absolutely understands that balance between, he's watching our hallways, he's watching those unstructured times. Oftentimes he's getting kids down to offices to be sort of consequenced for behavior or talked about with behavior. The thing Mr. Halaska does is he is really focused on restoring that student back to a good state. He has instituted a program of recognition cards or kindness cards. Every week he is writing, and this is true, 50 to 60 kindness cards. He's writing them himself and handing them to students at some point in the following week. It's incredible, and really people have come to see that, so great job, Mr. Glasser. Our second classified staff member is Gail Hockey. Gail works with anyone that's asked, really, first of all, I would say. But right now she's working in our small group units. Here's what, those students are often challenging and require a lot of patience. Gail has that incredibly. She is constantly working with students, and I wrote the word trust up there because those students will go with Gail. Those students will work with Gail. But more importantly, our teachers view Gail as that is someone who I can help, who I can go work with other students and know that the child Gail is working with is getting really good support and really good intervention. So thank you very much.
Mr. Vaughn, step around, step in the middle, and Bob, we'll take a picture here.
Now here in the clicking column. There we go.
Thank you.
So true.
Come on in.
Scoot in this way. Scoot in this way.
I haven't talked about it. Honestly. It was awesome. That's what he said, but you couldn't tell at all.
All right, ready? Big smile. 1, 2, 3. One more. Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Sattel?
Stay with me. First, I like that you formulated a plan. It looks, or actually, it is organized and on point for what you want to work on. That's tremendous.
Appreciate that.
And so I look forward to seeing the positive results that end up on that. So we'll expect a report in springtime. Also, it's wonderful to see people that I've grown up with, like Miss Large here. She's a first-year teacher. I remember when she was a first-year teacher and pulling her hair out and trying to figure things out. Tremendous to see the growth that you have. Justin there was a wrestler at Parma High. We competed against him, or I had kids compete against him a whole bunch, and a solid person he is, a good wrestler. And you're coaching the girls?
Yeah,
team,
coaching the girls.
right? How many girls do you have?
Probably gonna have 10 to 11 this year.
10 to 11? Awesome, good job. Very proud of you guys. Anyway, it's just wonderful to see that. And I know I say it all the time, but it's true. And it's just how it is. So that's it, that's all I got.
Well, I really appreciate the ownership of the weaknesses. And I would like to think that some of the things that we do here will support that. And so one of the things that I have seen, Mr. Vaughn and I sat in a classroom, was at one of the different high schools last year, and these kids came walking in. They had to walk to school. So when they had to walk to school, they had no real reason to get up and hustle and make sure, because they knew they still had to walk. And here they come with their little Polar Pops and their bags of chips, and they're a period and a half late. And I would like to think that things like universal busing across our district is going to help those kids and incentivize them to be on time, because you're absolutely right when you say when you can remove those numbers out, you can see the successes of our teachers.
Can I, Amanda, I think universal busing is going to be a great help to failure rates as well as graduation rates.
I think if we can get them there and they know, and that, even on the mental health part, that anxiety of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm watching it rain or snow outside, and I have to walk home in that, or I have to walk to school in that. The other thing, I love how the different components of the student body that come together for the PBIS store.
Cool.
It really is, because
It's great to see too. There is, and I think it said it on the slide, and this sounds a little corny, there's a little buzz, like in that area we do it in the entrance by the bus stop. There's a little buzz there, and I get it, it's a store, I get it, it's a high school and there's a store, but there is some ownership from those groups, which is important and valuable to them. And our kid, you know, the kids who aren't involved with, you know, MD students or anything, they actually care that those kids are happy too. So it is cool. Thank you.
I think that the experience you're providing to the student peers there through that is, you can't put,
That's cool. Thank
yeah,
you.
you can't put a value on that. The other thing that I would like to say is, you and your staff, being in the building, watching sporting events and watching you at different things with the kids, you talk to these kiddos, like these students, like they're humans, like they are intelligent young adults like they are, and I see you help bring them. An example I'll give is, there was a kid who made not the brightest decision to right in front of you jump up and grab the basketball hoop, and you had a conversation with him, and at the end of it, he was like, oh man, like, I shouldn't have done that, I know I shouldn't have done it. And you saw that restorative thing happen right there in a matter of minutes, and him go back to the game and enjoy the game and be respectful and took ownership of what he did. And I think that speaks volumes to your leadership in the building.
Well, it's, our staff has that feel. I appreciate you saying that about me. Our staff has that feel, 100%.
You guys are wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. You know what, I can't help thinking back to when we first hired you as the principal at Parma High School. And I remember you standing here, and you must have said at least 3 or 4 times how much you care about kids and care about your staff, and that they will know that when you're there as the principal. And it's so evident in what you do, Mr. Sattel. It really is, and you can't put enough value on that, quite frankly. You know, as much as you do with everything else, when the kids feel that they're cared about and somebody's there to support them and back them up and be there for them, that's as big as it gets, I think. You know, so.
Again, I appreciate it. Our staff absolutely has that same care. It's you know, I tell the story when I was walking the halls for the first time with Miss Iwick. She said the building has bones, and at the moment I took it as just kind of a I don't know what you mean. It's an old building, okay. But I believe what she's come to talk about is exactly what you're saying. That there is a real care for our students, and there is a real care or a real understanding that there are significant supports that our students need. And while right now we have weaknesses, but we really do have people that have a want and a desire to wrap themselves around those kids and families.
Great. Well, regarding the challenges and concerns that you've talked about, I really like, and you've definitely developed a plan to address those, but I like the idea of trying to get kids early on before they get that mindset of failure.
We need to do, yeah, and it's something we've addressed. And Mr. Knapp, who's sitting over there, and I have done a lot of talking about. We do feel like our students early on in their careers are feeling defeated, and that manifests itself in a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Quitting, behavioral concerns later on in their career. So we have addressed, and we're having those conversations to say we got to hit them early, and we got to have them experience some success.
Well, that was my next comment, actually. You know, when you get them early and they have an opportunity for success, it not only affects your graduation rate, that affects their life.
Yep.
You know, and so hooray for you, and hope that all works. And congratulations on the PBIS. I know that's not easy because most schools don't get
Ms. Jingle,
get the
one of our
gold
assistant
level.
principal, and her resilient learner team has worked really hard.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I love the kids being involved in that recognition process as well. And those 5-minute meetings sound very cool to me. It's not just, I think with a 5-minute meeting, it's not overwhelming to a kid. I'm not coming in and going to get drilled for a half an hour on everything that I'm not up to par on. It's a 5-minute meeting that you can probably have more often with kids because they're brief, and it's a way to let them know how you're supporting them and why you're there, and it's just a quick, we're here to help you out, you know, and whatever your points are in that particular meeting, it's quick, and it's not beating them up, you
It
know?
looked like I was being rude looking at my phone, and I was just pulling up a text from earlier today. I won't use names. This was from a teacher to Miss Jingo, a teacher who had a challenging, who has had a challenging student. And today at 1:11 p.m., you will never believe what happened today, exclamation point. This student sat with her group, stayed up and awake, participated and facilitated her group's discussion on the Fahrenheit 451 anticipation guide. My heart is bursting. That she was texting Miss Jingo because there was a really nice, quick conversation yesterday. So again, that doesn't, nothing's solved and fixed completely, but certainly I related to things like that, and those are happening.
Great. Just quickly, congratulations to all those that are recognized. Mr. Halaska told me about his kindness cards a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that was outstanding. And he took it upon himself, knowing a way that he could support kids and knowing a way that he could make a difference for kids. So hooray for that. And Gail Hickey, congratulations in particular. I've known you for many years, so I'm real happy to see you getting the recognition. Okay, I'm going to shut up because they're going to yell at me.
Yeah, just real quick, congratulations to everybody that was recognized. Justin, I've seen him at the football games, and he knows like every student. They know him. They come up to him like he's a friend, and not somebody that works in the school. It's pretty cool to see. I'm like Amanda. I appreciate the honesty on what's wrong. And when you're doing something right, you don't have to say it because everybody knows that you're doing it right. But you know, it's a lot to admit when you're doing wrong. And I did want to say that I love the Halloween costumes. You guys did.
Oh, the Titanic.
And I was curious as to whether or not the
Well
iceberg
played.
showed up for
The
the
iceberg did not show up.
Well,
Sometimes I
The
can't help
iceberg was
myself.
going to have a name. We won't mention what the iceberg name was going to be. Listen, there was good spirits behind it. So I was wondering whether I should participate in it or not.
And I saw the pictures, it looked
So we
great.
did, so, but it was getting good spirits, and everyone laughed. They had a good laugh. It's kind of one of those things that they needed, we needed to allow them to do that. Sure.
it was well played. I texted it to the board and it was good.
I'll keep it short. As a graduate of Parma High, you really make me proud. I remember the first time we met, and the first time we talked about things going on at Parma, and I was very impressed with you, and I'm very impressed with your staff and all you've done here, and I'm just, as a graduate, I'm proud of you. Thank you. Thank you all. So one final thing. One final, I promise it's final, and I really agree. I admire how you always bring your staff in, because it's we as a group, not I as a principal. That, my friend, is awesome.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Great staff, no.
No, it's really good.
Okay, well, good. Ready?
Oh, I'm gonna now.
Let her
Go ahead.
So it dawned on me as Mark was talking that in Parma, you know, people often have things to say about Parma City Schools and this and that. You take me to another school district where we have members of the safety and security team that are instructional leaders, because instruction doesn't just happen in the classroom. It happens in that unstructured time in the hallways. And to have people like that in our buildings, take me somewhere else that has it, because you don't find it.
Yeah.
And it is just, I am very proud of everyone, because that's amazing. All right, I'm done.
Great job.
Thank you, Parma. Congratulations. So while Mr. Griffin gets set up, Parma Senior, thank you very much for coming. You are more than welcome to adjourn at this point. Or you can stay for another presentation. Completely up to you. All right, Mr. Griffin, I think we're ready for you, sir.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Really excited to talk about what we got going on in Shiloh. A lot of great things going on, growth to be made, but excited about the things we're going to share today. So, Our achievement strength. We have had a focus on read, write, discuss, authentic literacy for a year and a half I've been there. And so looking at our state report card data, the thing that stood out to me is that in ELA, our gap closing meet, we got a 3-star, which says that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But specifically in ELA, we met 4 targets for our subgroup growth. And I'm proud of that. I think our teachers are doing a really, really good job of focusing on reading, writing, and discussing daily. We've made it a priority in all content areas. And so you can walk into Shiloh and you're going to see teachers in physical education or in art or in math trying to implement strategies that our teachers have come up with or that we've come up with as an administrative team to hit home that importance of reading, writing, and discussing daily. Our teachers also, we've really tried to focus on the guided practice cycle last year and what student engagement looks like. Our curriculum instruction team shared a 4-heart diagram that we constantly go back to about students working with text and students working with peers and students working independently and students working with teachers. And we made a focus of that. That was my first meeting with the staff was that, and we kept coming back to that. It's been implemented. We're continuing to refine that, but I think that's part of the reason why we were able to meet some of those targets with our subgroups. And then finally, our departments last year really took that on as part of their goals. And I loved getting from my department chairs agendas that said, here's the authentic literacy strategy we're going to talk about today. Even in some of the non-ELA courses, they were making that a priority to discuss or share something, an article they read, to give their teachers some tools that they could use in the classroom. So we're proud of that. Our other strength, we showed some significant growth in some specific tests last year. On 4 tests, in 5th grade science, we grew over 11%. I'll highlight that 6th grade ELA test, we grew 20%. That's significant. To me, it doesn't matter the starting point. The fact that we were able to grow 20% in a tested area, it stands out to me. Same type of thing in 6th grade math and in 7th grade math. Those areas were growing. When I met with Dr. Smiley for my OPES meeting that started this year, that's what I'm looking for is growth. And I've told the staff, we're not going to hit 80% in all of our tests this year, but I want every test to grow. Let's continue that movement so that we are putting up 8 pictures next year of those lines shooting up to the right. The why behind that, our teachers are awesome at implementing the instructional playbook. It's been consistent, it's been here for 5 years, it's nothing new. We try to give them new strategies each year of how to implement it. But when I go into the classroom, I try on a daily basis, I am thoroughly impressed with what our teachers do with our students as it relates to that playbook. They are constantly checking for understanding to see if the kids know it and making adjustments based on that. They're constantly engaging their students in that guided practice cycle. And we know that that's how we're going to grow our students, and our teachers have committed to that process. Our teams and our TBTs spend a lot of time. They have 3 meetings a week where they're spending time talking about, on the team side, students and what we're doing as a team to support our students, and on the TBT side, content. What are we doing content-wise to grow our kids? Looking at the district curriculums, almost every subject area has got a new curriculum. How are we implementing that? What are the assessments we're using? Last year we developed some good TBT processes, and this year it's about refining those and making those better so that we can continue to grow our students. And then lastly, I talked about it with the last achievement, but it's student engagement. Going in the classroom and seeing students engaged. They're with the content, with the teacher, with their peers, really focusing on getting better each and every day in our classrooms. I say all of that, and I think the concern or the weakness is that overall performance index. We can do better, and we've talked about what we can do better as far as performance goes. Just a little bit of tweaks, taking kids from, one, making sure that every kid is tested, but taking kids from limited to basic or basic to proficient to accomplished. It's small, minor things that we know we can do, and so now this year it's about making those adjustments. So already we've started the process at our last professional development meeting and coming up in November, focusing on where our kids are at with the OST data, where they're at with our MAP, and MAP is our 3 times a year kind of check-ins to see where kids are at, kind of a pulse of what are they able to do and what are we going to do about that. And then curricular data, having our teachers look at the assessments they're giving from the curriculum and how they're adjusting their instruction based off that. So we call it bubble kids, but last Friday our teachers started to identify students that are kind of on the bubble, moving to the next proficiency level, and what are we going to do about it? And so we're going to continue that work. It's a never-ending process, but we've started that process. I was extremely proud. I told all of the teachers that on Friday that I was proud of the work they accomplished, and I'm excited to see what November 8th holds. We have had a focus of close reading, implementing that in the classroom, students reading text multiple times, annotating. There isn't a day that I'm not in a classroom where I don't see kids in the class underlining stuff, circling stuff. My favorite thing as an administrator is to give something to the staff and then to see the staff implement it, and my teachers do a great job of that. We share with them something with them, and they're trying to make it their own in their classroom. And so we're going to continue that. We always try to give them some strategy and hope that they implement that. But thus far, they're doing a great job. And then lastly, it's to continue to refine that TBT process. I think there's a lot of value in teachers working with other content teachers about what we're doing with instruction and taking time to focus on our curriculum maps. What's that look like? Planning ahead. We talk a lot about TBT time being planning time so that they're all on the same page and talking about specific adjustments that they're making or things they're doing with groups of kids or just with content overall. So it's continuing to look at that TBT process and make sure that we're sticking to it, having good discussions, and then working through that weekly. Our resilient learner strength. One of our resilient learner strengths is that last year we were able to earn bronze recognition from the PBIS, for our PBIS program. We met 83% of the indicators for the bronze level. And we had a resilient learner team of roughly 10 teachers that met monthly to try to implement things to meet those indicators. It's a process, and the fact that we were able to earn that bronze level last year, I am super grateful for what that team did. Ms. Bell led that team, Ms. Bell and Mr. Burketti, but the teachers that were a part of that team, I've got some of them here in the room tonight, really spent time each month trying to make sure that we were doing the things that we needed to do to earn that recognition. Some of those things were, we implemented rate of raves and rate of raffles last year, and we created student of the months. And so that was paid for by our PTA. That was my first ask of our PTA was, our kids need to be recognized in the community, so they purchased student of the month signs. But all of those are focused around students and their behavior and doing the right things. That team also worked on creating a major versus minor behavior list. What is major offenses and what are minor offenses? And then what gets sent to the office and what should be handled by a classroom. And we're continually refining those processes, but getting those things on paper and having a process to start is what that team was working on last year. And then quarterly last year, we tried to provide lessons. The RLT created lessons to provide. We would call our students down. We would try to give the teachers some time to work in their teams and provide those behavior lessons to our students. Our other strength is last year we had teachers, 6 teacher volunteers, 1 from each grade level. This was kind of run through the RLT, but they created an advocacy program. And we ended up hitting 60 students across all 3 grade levels. What the kind of model was they were mixed, 5th, 6th, and 7th grades. They went to a teacher. That teacher was more of a, kind of acted as a mentor. And weekly, they would do check-ins during homeroom, restorative circles. There was always kind of a theme for that circle. But they would kind of sit down and talk about what was going on that week and then the theme for what the RLT had designed. This kind of created an atmosphere where the students had a different person to go to that wasn't one of their specific teachers. And what we saw from that was that 70% of the students either saw their grades stay the same or improve a letter grade, which we were pretty proud of and found as a positive of that program. Our concern. To me, the biggest obstacle that we face is chronic absenteeism. I firmly believe that we have awesome things going on in our building, and that we have phenomenal teachers and a variety of supports that have been provided to us and our students. But if they're not there, they can't take advantage of those. And so for us, it's when I saw the state report card and saw 51%, I was like, my jaw kind of dropped, because that to me stands out as over 50% of our students are chronically absent. They're not there enough to get the great things that we got going on. And so that's something that we got to take on, and how can we get them there? So what we're doing about that is we, roughly a month ago, started to target students that were between 4 and 6 days already. At that point in time, that would have put a kid or a student already at chronic absenteeism. I mean, it's that quick. It's 2 days a month, and they're going to be chronically absent for the year. And so our home liaison has started to try to identify the why behind that. Sometimes it's just a sickness, or still COVID. They're out a certain number of days or vacations, but it's kind of putting them on the radar that, hey, this is a student that we got to be cognizant of what's going on. So she has done a lot of work as far as calling families, finding out what they need, getting them the support they need. We've also shared these lists with our teachers to get them to begin to think about what we can do, and maybe making some efforts to talk to those students about what's going on and why they're not there. Our AP, our assistant principals and counselors meet weekly to talk about some of these students and what we're doing to help them and support them. We've already started sending out things such as carpool opportunities, where we're trying to connect families that maybe are bringing students and connecting students that don't have rides yet to make that happen. That's a process. We have maybe 1 or 2 that have agreed to do that, but we're trying to do things like that to figure out how can we get you here, because when you're here, we know that we're going to do right by you. The highlights of Shiloh Middle School. To me, there's a lot that stands out, but these are the 4 things that I take away from what we got going on. Our teacher teams, our teachers, Mr. Tell talked about wrapping around kids. Our teachers do whatever they can to help support kids. And one of the models of the middle school, the teaming model in the middle school is about that. It's about 3 or 4 teachers knowing all that's going on with the students and providing the right supports. And our teachers go above and beyond in that area. Constantly identifying students that need supplies and bringing them in, creating reward opportunities for students to work towards something, putting systems in place so that students constantly come to school and want to be there because of what their team and their teachers got going on. And so I am super proud of what our teachers do to support our students on a daily basis, both academically and in this case, really that social and emotional, knowing what a student needs and how to support them, and working as a team or as a group to provide that support. Something else that stands out to me, and this could have just been COVID related, but for me as a kid, I don't remember a whole lot from my classes, but I remember the school dances and the sports I played and all the fun things that we did at school. And what I think Shiloh does a really awesome job of is providing those opportunities for students. We had a dance last week, was it last week? Yeah, last Thursday, and we had over 300 students there. We had a tailgate a few weeks ago for our Shiloh, I think it was North Olmsted or Fairview football game, and we had over 300 students there. When we put these events on, our students attend them, and that takes the staff. The staff's the one that does that. I get them to go and they run with it. And they really do provide a lot of opportunity. And to me, that's what connects students to school is, hey, I have this opportunity. Yes, we want them to be there for the academics, but it's the other opportunities that they're really going to remember. Our intramural program, Ms. Giles, our intramural director, is here. We put on intramurals that have more kids than we can handle. And we have kids from all grades wanting to attend those things. And our student council it does a lot of running that. We're currently running a canned food program, but they're constantly trying to put on things for our students to, again, connect them to the building. One of the other things that stands out to me is we kind of have an embrace all mindset. Ms. Walker is our embrace all coordinator, but I really believe staff and students really care about all of the students, and I'll point to last year we had a Helping Hands program. Our ACES students would come over to Shiloh on Thursdays and Fridays at around 1 o'clock, and we would have students leave lunch to go do different projects with those ACES students. to try to provide them some peers to work with. That program's changing a little bit this year, but we actually have other students that have reached out to some of our special needs students, some of our students that are in wheelchairs and aren't maybe able to come to the cafeteria. They go and eat lunch with them. That wasn't promoted by us, or students said, hey, can we do this? Because we want to provide them a friend, and yeah, heck yeah, we're going to allow that. And so we're proud of our students for embracing all the different needs and cultures that we have. We have gotten a lot of students, refugees, Ukrainian students throughout this year, and we have students in all grade levels on all teams taking those students under their wings, walking them from class to class, providing the support. There are students that can't say much of anything, and they're helping with that language barrier, but ultimately helping to make the environment comfortable for them. You need a friend. Sometimes you just need a friend, and to know that you're going to come in and there's somebody that can help you get from point A to point B is really important. We also provide monthly activities through that Embrace All team to focus on culture and focus on what we can do to make sure that we're respectful of all the diversity within our school. And then lastly, this has been kind of a focus this year. Ms. Gideon, who's also in the audience, has taken it on for student acknowledgement. And when you walk into our building now, there's a huge board that shows the student of the months and the why and the good work that we're doing. Next to every classroom is file folders for teachers to place the good things that they're doing. I think kids need to know that, hey, you're doing a good job. And so we've tried to provide that avenue so that they're able to see what they're doing and all the great things that they're doing out in the hallways, and other kids can see that and feed off of that. Now to the best part. Our certified staff, 2 outstanding certified staff. Jenna Patton, she's a 5th grade ELA teacher. She's a BLT member and ELA department chair. She's an advocacy member last year. She's on our RLT team. Yes, she does just about everything in the building. Last year, 84% of our students passed the OST. It was the highest number in the building, and something that when I saw that, jumped off the page to me. Jenna, when I go into Jenna's classroom, sometimes I don't know how it's all going on, because it's like 25 different things going on in one classroom. But that's because she has identified what every student in her classroom needs and has tried to plan and prepare things for each one of those students and make sure that they're successful and growing. Every time I talk to Jenna, it's about growth. How am I going to get these students to grow? And she really does a great job of identifying what they need and then implementing that. Our second staff member is Lori Leitzel. Lori is a 6th grade inclusion teacher. She's on our BLT. She's been a part of the math adoption process. What I love about Lori is I would never know that Lori was an inclusion teacher. I think if you came to Shiloh, you wouldn't know that Lori was an inclusion teacher, because when I go into classrooms, Lori is leading lessons. Lori is planning lessons. Lori is on stage all the time, working with kids, pulling small groups aside to provide intervention, whether they're on her caseload or not. Lori stands out to me as somebody that's constantly trying to instruct students, meet them at their level, and really plan and lead lessons with her team to support her teachers and then ultimately support her students. So I'd like a round of applause for those 2 ladies. Our classified staff members, the first one is Mary Ramirez. Mary came to us, I don't know, maybe early September last year, and fills a incredibly important role. If you are trying to talk to Mary between 7 and 8:30, good luck, because she's out on the loose trying to identify period subs for our teachers. She handles all of our discipline. She takes on attendance roles. She doesn't stop working, and she has been vital to, I think, changing some things within the office at Shiloh. She has built great relationships with teachers, that they're not afraid to say, hey, yeah, I'll take on a period sub, and that can sometimes be a challenge. It's a lot to ask of teachers, but I think she's done a great job of building those relationships so they're not turning her down. She has fit into Shiloh. She's got a great infectious laugh, and that fits well with my personality. Mary does go above and beyond. I'm constantly asking her for things, and I yell out, hey, Mary, and she knows that she's got something that she's going to take on, and typically within 30, 40 minutes, I've got an email with what I've asked. So thank you for what you do. and our last staff member is Laura Kennedy. Laura is maybe the most calm and cool, collected staff member I've ever worked with. Laura works in our ED unit, so with some of our behavior support students, and Laura has seen it all, been through it all, and I've never seen her not with that infectious smile. She always has a great attitude about it, even in the toughest of times, and that is a tough job, but she does it every day to the best of her ability. She truly cares about students. I've seen that when she's talking to them in the face of them screaming and yelling, and it's just, okay, what do you need? And I appreciate that. You have to have a certain type of person in that role, and Laura is perfect for it. I hope she never leaves. I know that there's some discussion of a potential retirement in the future, and so I know Katie is trying to prevent that, but we appreciate all that you do.
I know, we should really plan this out. I'll do a side. He's making me not sure.
Yeah, I think the picture from last year was the same, by the way, when we got masked. I think that's yours.
Oh, maybe it's just the day.
You need us more together? It's like,
We're good.
All right, ready? Big smiles. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Congratulations, everybody. All right, questions or comments for Mr. Griffin?
Mr. Griffin.
You deserve it. When I saw you running, I was going to yell at him again. Didn't get you.
I wrote a lot of stuff today. All right, well, and looking at your growth portion and what you're trying to get done, it's trying to get kids to a higher index. Having taught before, it's really, really difficult. And it takes a special mindset by the teacher to try to get that student to get there. And I think the plan that you had there is very well thought out, and it looks really good. So again, like Parma, I expect a nice positive report in springtime. And then I do have a question, saying when the teacher volunteers, when do they check up on the students?
So that was a program that was last year, we implemented in the second semester. It was every Monday or Tuesday.
No, every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, because Mondays we were off, so they did every Tuesday. This year, we haven't started that program yet. I don't know what that's gonna look like for this year, as it might, we might need to tailor it to fit the needs of what's going on this year.
I wasn't worried about what day of the week.
Oh,
I was like, when, during the day? Is it on their lunchtime? Is it during their prep time? Is it during their class time?
It was during homeroom.
During homeroom.
That's the one time a day where all three of our grades are in class.
Okay.
And so it was the RLT team felt that was the best time to meet, so that we weren't pulling them from an encore. Everybody, all the teachers agreed to give up some instructional time to be able to do some of the resilient learner restorative practice.
All right, so those teachers have those kids in their homeroom, or do they?
No, it was multi-grade, so
Okay.
5th, 6th, and 7th. So we'd have the same students come every week. So I had 5th graders, 6th graders, and 7th graders.
Okay,
So
that
we
makes
developed
sense.
those relationships.
I was just trying, what I was trying to see is that you're like volunteering your time to do this.
No, it was during our teaching time, so we did give up some instructional.
Okay. All right, very good. I think you're thinking outside the box with this absenteeism solution. Especially, I like the carpool idea. I think that's wonderful. I would like to call it a bus. But, I mean, for people that can't do that, you get carpools. I can remember taking several kids to school in my own car when I taught at Normandy. I would take, some kids from around the neighborhood. Or they were wrestlers, I'm not gonna lie, though. Kids I involved with, so I just wasn't random people. But anyway, so that's still outside the box, is what I'm saying. So, and then my last thing I'm gonna say, and I'll cut myself off, but then people want to say some things. One of the strengths I see is your staff involvement. And there's that phrase that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I also think it takes a village to teach a child. And then that's what's happening. So I appreciate that. Very good. Good luck. Good luck, guys. Congratulations, everybody that won awards today. I think you're fantastic. Obviously, you already wouldn't have chosen you. So, and I love the cheerleader you brought with you. Dude, that's my mom. That's pretty cool. Don't be embarrassed by it. It's awesome. All right, I'm good. So.
All right. So I like in the advocacy program, I really liked all the different components. That one of the things that stuck out was the major, minor, like behavioral infraction list. And I really like that because I think that kids make mistakes and kids don't always need to feel, when they're constantly punished or, when they're removed from their classroom to go down, they lose more instructional time for a mistake they made. And so if it's a minor infraction, being able to handle that in the classroom, I think is really great. And I think that also leads to, reinforcing the idea that being in class is important. And then the other thing I liked in regards to the chronic absenteeism was most of the things that you were identifying seemed to be outreach. And I think that that's really important, how you said like the home liaison was reaching out to the families. And I can speak from personal experience. I have our littlest one is a habitual year after year chronic absenteeism because she has severe school anxiety. And the hardest call I had to make was the day I called the home liaison and said, I am in over my head and I need help. And I knew how receptive she would be. I knew how wonderful she was, and it was still a very hard call to make.
Yeah.
And so that outreach to break down that barrier and make it, not that it's not socially acceptable, but to make parents feel like this is a normal thing, a normal process, I think is wonderful. And so I really love that. The other thing,
If I could just say,
Go ahead.
she's not here, but Miss C. Tony, our home liaison, does a fantastic job with building relationships with families. She has, again, another awesome addition to Shiloh as far as caring about kids and finding out what they need. She works tirelessly to make sure that each family feels supported, identify what's wrong, and try to help them out. So.
well, I love that. I love that. The other thing, one, I agree with no matter where you started, to see those growth, those upward trends, I love that. Very possibly the most impressive thing you said was the attendance rate at the extracurricular things. That means that kids aren't associating Shiloh with a place they don't want to go, a place they don't want to be. And I think that that's huge, and it speaks to the culture and your staff and everybody there. So congratulations, everybody, and great job. Thank you. You're up, Mrs. Bratz.
Okay. Well, I think it was clear in all the remarks that you made that your staff is deeply engaged with students, not just teaching, not just monitoring, not just anything, but everything that they do, there's involvement on the part of the staff, which is pretty great. So I think that demonstrates to the kids that they're cared about, and you're looking for as many ways as possible to support kids overcome some of the weaknesses or challenges that you have. The chronic absenteeism, boy, you got to get kids there to teach them, absolutely. And so I like the things, you're doing to try to wrap around that. And you have all these folks involved in it. It's not one or two people trying to address the problem. You're all working at trying to address the problem. And I think that's pretty important to come from all sorts of different ways. I like the major minor thing too. If you can handle it in the classroom, the kid stays in the classroom, it's not such an overwhelming, terrifying thing to be involved with and I'm not suggesting that you're a big ogre if they come down to the office, but I think that's intimidating for a lot of kids, and if they can get it under control in the classroom and not have to have another level of intervention, yay, that's a good thing. Like all the emphasis on growth, I think that's really important too. You can't always maybe meet some of the levels that you would like to meet, but growth towards that is progress and moving in the right direction. So I like that. And I liked what you said about, you're talking about your teachers are awesome at implementing the instructional playbook and understanding what to do and making sure kids have an understanding of the academic work that they're supposed to be doing. But what I loved was identifying when there is a problem and making an adjustment to meet that. Making that adjustment for kids, finding a different way or a better way to meet that kid where they're at and what they need in order to be a better learner. So I love the adjustment part of that. And I love all the activities that you're doing for kids. That makes school just a bigger environment, It's just got a whole lot, and I think that attracts kids too. Sometimes you catch a kid that you can't get otherwise, but by getting them in those activities, then that makes them more comfortable with the whole school experience. So, hooray, that sounds really, really good. And, you embrace all mindset. That's good. The last thing or the second last thing I'm going to say is, I love the student of the month thing, which a lot of schools do, but you added the why. When you put your student of the month up, you tell why. Not only is that important to the kid, but other kids see that and say, oh, that's a good thing. And maybe we take that for granted, a student, of the month is going to do the 3 R's, but I think writing it out and putting it out there is a good way to not only reinforce that behavior in that kid, but for others to see what's important too. And congratulations to the 4 awardees tonight. Hooray for what you're doing, and thanks for what you're doing for kids. That's great.
I'll be real quick. I don't envy what you do, having one that just went through middle school. I know you guys, this is when these start showing up in hands, and they care more about TikTok and Instagram than they do you guys. So the job that you have ahead of you, I don't envy you. But congratulations to everybody that won. When I saw that you were on it, if Laura wasn't on there, I was going to send you a strongly worded email as to why you passed.
I'm glad I chose it right.
He's very deserving of it. So.
But well deserved.
Yes. So congratulations to everybody.
It's amazing how we both think the same way about the extracurricular activities at school. It's really wonderful. You got 300 people showing up at these things. That's really a remarkable feat. And I want to just congratulate you for that and your staff. And congratulations for everybody that won the awards tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give Shiloh a round of applause. All right, Shiloh friends, you are more than welcome to head on your way and have a beautiful evening on this
It's nice having an
November
audience.
night. Thank you for coming.
Want one? Yeah. And you paid for it.
Yeah, see, kid.
Yeah, I knew that name. I didn't know she was related. Where's that toast? Yeah, he's our town now too. Is that Rob?
But he's,
Not the same family?
yeah.
Oh, poor Mrs. Vanna.
Mrs. Vanna.
Nobody's stuck around
Carl's
for
really
you.
here.
You better be
Carl's here.
clapping
Look
real
at
loud for
Tiffany
her,
left. She's like,
Carl.
All right.
So this is,
Moving on to following up on our goal reports.
No,
We have,
sorry.
following up on our goal reports, we have Mrs. Vanek, the Director of EMIS and Assessment, and she is in charge of all of the nitty-gritty. Now, I have said this before, but I want to make sure I say it again. We are nothing until Mrs. Vanek reports to the state what we are, which is a tremendous amount of responsibility and pressure and stress, and I think she handles it in an exemplary fashion year after year, and I'm grateful to have her in this role. That's it, Mrs. Vanek.
Thank you. The theme I saw between the two buildings was wrapping around services around kids. So what I think I can't do that, or I don't do that, but what you'll see is all of the teams, my team, the team that I work with, all the people I work with, rewrap services around the teachers or the buildings. So so that they can then do what they need to do to serve our children. We always start with the district goals, and as we go through, I will highlight those. Once again, I fall under the curriculum department, so we were working at playbooks. While I'm not working on curriculum, we once again, every student at the state, which most people don't realize, we have to upload the courses that they take. The state of Ohio knows every course a student takes, from high school, anything that's credit union, I should say. And then working with resilient learners. Once more time, it's if teachers aren't stressed and they have time to help students, they can help students without having to figure out where their copies are, or why they can't get on their online curriculum, anything that way. When it comes to EMIS, they're not worried about us until they get their EVAS or their test scores back. And then at that point, if we can provide any service to them, we'll try to explain that. What are the major functions of our department? Once again, when I say assessments, it is the OST, the Ohio State Assessments. What are we required to assess a student in? We help with benchmarking, but at that point, the teachers are digging in the buildings for that. EMIS, which is all the data management. Print shop, and when I say DIS, that's the DIS technology side, and then I call the other side SIS, which is our e-school, which is where we house all of the data, and that's how the data gets to the student. So, who's the team? So, I have 3 building test coordinators who are in the buildings. They assist from, I'll say, K-12, more 3-12, when we're working with kindergarten for KRA. They'll go in and help with benchmarking. We just did gifted testing. They'll teach teachers or help teachers that way, but then when kids are absent, they'll go in and pick those kids up to retest them. And they work, so they have a wealth of knowledge because they really are elementary, middle, and high school experience. Amy Vineyard, who's my administrative specialist for EMIS and scholarship. So Amy and I both, when I say do EMIS, we're the ones that are working in the EMIS system, but she also does the autism and JP scholarship, which is special education, working on the outside. And when you say, what does she do? Anybody who knows her, and I'll talk about her in SOs later on, is the student really ours? When they say lives in the Parma area. If not, she works with the state of Ohio and says, they haven't uploaded a proof of residence, and they being the non-public schools, and then she works with them to make sure they really are students, because sometimes they're really not. And then we don't want that funding to come through us at that point. She has to make sure everything's correct on the scholarship side, which is the state side. So half of her job is EMIS, the other half, and it does take her half of her year, I'll say, to do scholarship. SIS, which once again is our student information system, which is eSchool. That's John Cooper, who's our database analyst, Melissa Mako, Sue Iwascu, Jason Smith, and Rich Weaver. They maintain a lot of, well, just to keep eSchool going. John Cooper is the one who writes all the SQL, which is a program which then connects our online curriculum to our teachers. He works anything in behind the desk that way. Last year, because as I'm talking to, most of them are guys, about what DIS does and what John does, they start talking a language which at first I was like, not sure. So I went back to Tri-C and took some programming classes last year. So when they're talking to me about data points, when they're talking about access points, when they're talking to me about anything like that, and I did this much SQL programming, number one, you don't want me to do any SQL programming, but to know what he does is amazing when I say that, and how he connects everything that we have here, once again, working with teachers so they can access what they need. Melissa does the same thing with eSchool. Sue is our clerk. Jason Smith is our online curriculum, so when you're talking about Google, any of those, any of our apps, he's the one who's going into the buildings and working with teachers. DIS, so when I talk about the technology side, I think we all know Dan Gideon and Gary Fez, and there's 8 other technicians. And I'll go a little bit further in a couple of our slides. Print shop, I think we all know Dan Saloon, and he has typically 6 pressmen. Kim Hansel's the secretary, typically works with Tiffany, but if I have anything that I need to do with testing, She is the person that I go to. And then Deb Minkowski is our assets clerk, who works down between DIS and SIS and manages all the assets. She'll work with Sean as well. So DIS, there's a lot of words up there. What are we doing? Well, once again, we're trying to increase opportunities for students. What do? They technicians and Gary and Dan, once again, they're supporting families and staff. Anybody who knows the back of the building, door 50, they'll cover that. That means anybody who's, if you can come during the day, 7:30 to 3:30, and you have a problem with your computer, if you're a student that drives or goes to school here, or a parent that needs to drive that up, they'll provide on-site assistance right here. They also, the techs are stationed at the middle and high school, Monday through Friday. Usually at the high school a little longer than the 7:30 to 9:30, but that's a minimum. They're usually there longer. And they're right there so students can go to their buildings to get the support. The other piece is the help desk ticket. That's for our staff. I can't do X, Y, and Z. And it gets to be frustrating. Yes, you put the ticket in, within usually a few hours at the longest, it's taken care of. Sometimes it can't be taken care of, they'll say, come to door 50, we need to swap out your computer. But there's that access for our staff at all times. They work with some permits with the setup because it's all gone electronic now. Then when I say updating networking in all buildings, in parentheses I put Arlington. We'll see as we keep going, one of our goals for DIS is to pull some services that we pay our ITC and to maintain it in-house to try to save money. One of those is updating the network. Right now it's called Aruba, and we're trying to eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to put it into Arlington, which then will allow us, hopefully, to go through all the other buildings, and then we can take the networking capabilities in-house and won't have to address them with the ITC. So we're starting there with Arlington small, make sure that it works and does what we need it to do. And then the last, providing support for needs as we transition to new buildings. Once again, we know we have to run wire, we know we have to have access points for all of that. Conversations as I meet with DIS, when are we getting that done? The next week or two, Dan Gideon should probably be going to Arlington because our targeted move is over Christmas break for our department to move there. So that way we're housed already, and then we can move to whatever, to Parma Park to help with any of that as well. So we're already thinking, what do we need to do? What needs to be done? How many drops do we need, and so forth. So once again, practice fiscal responsibility. We've upgraded the server infrastructure. It reduces the cost for us. Imaging solutions for desktop computers. Not so much saving us money, but it gives us a better product, I'll say. We refreshed PVLA Chromebooks, and that was last year. That's why I put 21, 22 up there. The Chromebooks that we had were not working for what students needed at home. So they got a higher grade of Chromebook. If they left PVLA, that was returned, and then they got their regular Chromebook this year. Last year also, we refreshed office staff desktop computers, which hadn't been done for about 10 years. And we also upgraded the rest of the student Chromebooks last year using ESSER funds. So now that we have that, we're working on creating a replacement rotation for technology, so it's not all of that, we're moving it out as we go year to year. We've met with Mr. Nucio just to talk about it. We haven't done anything yet, but everything's new right now. But the life of a laptop is not long. You can't go out 10 years with a laptop. They'll just not work anymore. And then I did skip the one, create a replacement, exploring bringing ITC services back from Neonet, but we're in contract right now. So we're trying to think ahead. So when our contract does end, what can we bring back, which will have some cost savings for the district. And then lastly, moving the NOC to standalone, because the standalone location. The NOC is the brains, and it's down the hall here, of the whole district. So if you think about a brain and all the nerves that come out of a brain, well, that's what's happening. It's going to every single building. The NAC goes down, the whole district's down. So Parma High isn't here, we needed someplace to put it. So we are looking at a structure that is, and I'm gonna, Dr. Schneider, it's by Densler, I don't know, it's that tower right there. And putting it in there, we already have, we're ready to do that move. We have to have tax cable come and rewire and everything like that first, but that should never have to be moved out. That should be a stable place so that it's always in one location and we're not worried about it. To the print shop. I have Dan Saloom and his 6 pressmen, and what do? We know they pick up, they deliver, they do inter-school mail, they go to the post office daily, they manage copiers, pins, copy data, and I see the litany of everything we know, which I think the print shop is a gem that we have in this district. They're still working at less than full capacity. They've been minus 2 staff members, and just trying to find people to work is the issue. So they're still doing everything that we've expected of them, still with 2 less people, and that's been last year and this year. Print request for a teacher, if you're a teacher within 24 hours, you're getting your print. Unless there's some issue that Mr. Sloan needs to work with you through. The other jobs, the green sheets, it just always depends. If there's a big print job that he's working on, green sheets may have to wait, and there might be that blackout period, but you're still getting those within, it could be a week to 2 weeks if he has to hold up on it. But those, and when I say green sheets, that's anything from signs, from any programming, any of that. He has implemented the new print to copier program. That was last year. They're refining that. That's when I say a cost analysis piece, so that principals know if their teachers are using the little printers, and it's very expensive. The ink is expensive and everything else. Why are your teachers using that? You know, and then those conversations can be had at the building level. And once again, it is way cheaper to print at the print shop than even using the regular printers that we have throughout. And then lastly, we have new printers purchased. We're waiting for whenever we can get them. They've been ordered since July, and one came in, but it could take up to a year for those to be replaced. So with that, the deal that he worked out was actually cheaper, basically, for us to purchase than even to rent. And then he can always extend the life. He's wonderful at trying to extend the life of these machines and get the most bang for his buck. Also, with consolidation, what copiers can we keep and move from those closed buildings to support central office, so then all of this central office copiers we won't need. So there will be a savings out there. The data points. So I talked about a help desk ticket. So when you look to the left, those are all help desk tickets set from August 1st to November 11th. That is the Dan Gideon side, the DIS side. You can see the technicians have come out, and those are mostly helping kids if there's a ticket put in by a teacher for students. The online curriculum would be Jason Smith working with teachers on curriculum, like I can't get into my X, Y, or Z, and he'll work on any of that. So you can see that there have almost 7,000 tickets from November through November 1st. On the right side, PAC Home Access Center, we had 2,200 emails. That's a parent who can't get in to see their students' data. A lot of that was with the blue cards because that was a concern, and it was an issue for a lot of people trying to get in because it's new. The tech help, so that's our technicians again. So instead of the help desk ticket, that's a parent who's emailing, you know, hey, I can't do X, Y, and Z. And then 128 people came to door 50. So those are the people that are driving up to get me. And that could be a teacher or a parent or a student. When we look down below where it says staff, that's our print shop. So 61,389 jobs, but look at the 6 million copies.
Oh my gosh.
So making those copies at the print shop and not have to do it at a building or go outside saves, I think, lots of money. If I asked Dan, he'd be like, I can give it to you right now, how much money we've saved, but I don't have that, I didn't ask him for that. And then when we talk about green sheets, We use impressions because that could be a yard sign, so it doesn't have to be a print, it could be a yard sign, it could be a program, it could be any of that, and that's also for this year up through now. He's done over 2 million, when I say impressions, like I said, it could be a play program, it could be any of that. So that they're busy. They're busy to try to help support the district too, so that we can educate students. EMIS and assessment. So, as I said, half of my job is EMIS, the other half is Amy's, and we work together in that, and as Dr. Smilek said, that is, anything the state needs, pretty much that's how they get it. And they keep adding more and more on that they want us to track, and it's all through collections, and it all comes usually out of our student information system. So the data's not right in there, the data going up to the state isn't right. So it's working with staff to make sure that the data's right, that we withdraw a student the correct way, that we enter a student the right way, that if we have a tuition student, that the tuition's corrected in there so that all the money is correct as we're moving forward too. Another thing that this is Mrs. Vineyard, she continues to monitor SOS. SOS is our community schools. 2 years ago, it was a little different because we could flag and stop payment when we saw that the child, while they're pointing to Parma, you could see clearly they lived in Cleveland. With the new funding that happened last year with the state of Ohio, we can only put data flags up. It doesn't stop them from collecting money. But, and this is my opinion only, I think our next financial round at the state level, they'll go back to what they were doing and the money will flow to us. So she, and I keep using the term bulldog, wants the community schools to know, listen, I'm watching you, we're checking, and she has the right to say, I need to see a POR, and they fight with her. Well, the parents say that they don't have a bill in their name, and she's like, okay, but that's what we need. I need to see that they live in our school community. So she still does that, even though it doesn't flow through us funding-wise anymore. We need to make sure that if they're claiming Parma, that they really do live in Parma. So she does spend time doing that. We have to work with other districts to make sure enrollments are accurate. If I say the student went to school from this time to this time, but we overlap from this time to this time with another district, neither district gets paid. So until you clear that, nobody's getting paid for that student. So that's one thing, it's called ODAX. We go into the state and we work with districts to clear all that. We work with the stakeholders for data quality, as I said, at the building level. We also work with the different departments to make sure that we also have to send up teacher pay. What courses are the teachers? Are the teachers properly certified? If they're not, that's also an issue. If we had too many, when I say issues, the state will put us in corrective action. I never ever want that letter for Dr. Smilek to come to me and say, guess what, we're going to corrective action. So it's also just trying to follow all of that. EMIS is a beast, and it could be an all-day job. My next team that I work with are my building test coordinators. So they, as I kind of mentioned earlier, they do work with all the buildings, any of the benchmarking, any of the Ohio State tests, any of our gifted, AP in May, and the Ohio SAT. They also provide the test security training at all levels so that the teachers understand the expectations of training, because a teacher, if they don't follow the rules, could possibly lose their licensure, and we want everyone to know what you need to do and what you can't do. So there is a yearly training for that. They work with myself in the Office of Exceptional Students on alternate assessment, OELPS and OLPA. They work in buildings to make sure students are tested, which is an indicator on the report card. And then they provide data to all stakeholders on assessments so student achievement can be tracked and instruction can be adjusted. So now to my goals. I gave you an overview. So my goal, which I met with Mrs. Strapko on, Dr. Strapko on, by the end of 22-23 school year, all departments will meet to establish goals and objectives to best meet the district's need for data, processing, and equipment. So my action steps are below. I meet with the print shop, I meet with DIS, We meet every Friday, and my SIS side, I meet with Mrs. Hayward every day. So working at that, the one piece that, when I say is different than what we have done and what we do, is at the very end of number 6, master schedule at the elementary level. Typically, we've been doing the master schedule, and now we are going to train the principals on working on what does master schedule look like, why do we do what we do, and to get them more involved so they can see the connection to why everybody needs to be in the master schedule and how it connects to online curriculum. And then my second goal is more of the data quality, and I'll work within the EMIS collections to include all data stakeholders to make sure data is correct as possible. And it increases money, but it also increases data purity. So when I say that, who do we work with? It could be, it depends on what collection I'm doing, secretaries, principals, HR, payroll, registration and enrollment. We work with just about everybody because we're sending all the information up, and we do have those meetings, or we will send them and say, here are some errors. Special ed is another one that's huge, to make sure that it's all correct and in a timely manner. I keep agendas. I mean, as I said with Mrs. Vineyard, the last one is we implemented data from CrossCheck. CrossCheck is another program that looks at our data differently than what our SIS does or what EMIS does, and it's showing me some data points that it's just for the data quality. When I say it isn't affecting funding, but like I saw some issues that we're having with EO as far as how they're coding, and we want to make sure it's all coded correctly so that the data is as clean as possible. My priorities: complete our resource materials for easy access. So what do we need to have? Where do I get it? And when I talk about TAC enrollment testing, that's my department. You know, where is, if I need something for HAC, how does a parent find that out? Is it on the website? How does anybody know who do I call when they're, or who do I contact? Once again, always compliance with the EMIS, that changes continuously. We also train new clerical staff, so when I find out there's a new secretary, either myself or Melissa Manko will bring them in. I also oversee student records, so if there's a new records clerk, I have to meet with them so they know what they need to do for records and what they send it to me, then I have to look at it and redact if I need to. Once we continue support for administrators on their school's data, looking at starting to make sure I go to buildings and we sit down and look at data when it's still happening and then afterwards so that they can break the data down. And then once we continue refinement of data review by relevant departments, that means all the departments that are here as well as the buildings. Because like I said, payroll has a piece of the pie, curriculum has a piece of the pie with the courses. A lot of times I'm working with the deputies on that. And then once again, we are customer service based departments. Can't do your job, you can't teach, you're frustrated because you can't access something. We need to be able to do it quickly. And so that's, for us, it's customer service. What is it that we can do to make sure that we are meeting the needs of everybody, all the stakeholders, parents? Because if I don't have a call back, everyone's ready to go, I'll say 2 hours, but if I don't have a call back in a couple hours, I'm losing my mind. Because I'm used to looking everything up on my phone. We understand that. And so we do try to work as quickly and as politely and get everything rectified, well, I mean, as quickly as possible. That includes, when I say all of our help desk, that includes me putting data up in a timely manner, and that also includes our print jobs. At that concludes my presentation.
Well, I'm disappointed that we don't see some of your staff, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. I'll just everyone would come.
I don't ask them to come in the evening. I didn't last year either. They give me more than enough of their
I'm sure that Dan Saloom is still down there, actually, in the print shop around green sheets.
That is true.
Well, I tell you what I do have to say a couple things. First and foremost, the DIS system, even today, saved this guy's butt more than one time for a classroom presentation. where I'd get in there first thing in the morning and try to get on the computer, and it's not working, it's spinning, it's whatever. Man, I get a phone, talk to whoever's I think it was Dan Gideon at the time. Boom, do this, and it okay, worked, great. And then if it was later on, I actually had Gary in class
Yeah.
when I first got the iPads, and I didn't know how to mirror it. And he goes, hey, just do this. I'm like, oh, okay, just do this. So every time he's in class, I go, here, do this thing. He told me.
Right, he did it for our networking class.
Yeah, he's an awesome kid. So anyway, so they were lifesavers. So what I am very impressed with is your organization and your leadership, because there are so many moving parts in your department that you're in charge of. And that's,
Juggling.
you juggle very well. And it's probably like the 9-ball juggler rather than the 3. So it's excellent. So kudos to you and what you do. And like I said, the EIS guys have saved my butt more than once. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
I have a couple of things. One, your kind of analogy in the beginning about how here you guys wrap your arms around the team. That is so true. And I know that we've done a lot of reorganizing over the last few years to put resources closer to kids. And even though you're not in the classroom, you are on the front lines of making sure the kids have these resources. And without what you and the people underneath you do, we don't have a functional school system, and that is incredible. I love the 7:30 to 9:30 piece with the techs in the building, because, for instance, my daughter, she was really upset. She had a test that afternoon, and her Chromebook just kept crashing. She was able to go get it, and one, it managed her anxiety. She didn't miss a whole lot of class because she was there before school. And so I think all of those things are great, and it shows that, once again, even our DIS is instructional leaders. They're finding ways to make sure the kids don't miss the classes. I also want to commend you about your dedication to professional development, taking classes so you understood the language that people were speaking in a field that you were working. I mean, that is, you didn't need to do that.
But I did. Because
You
you
weren't
were talking, I don't want the deer in the headlights. So,
Well,
but
that
thank
is
you.
really above and beyond, and that is fantastic. I had a question. So you were talking about the PVLA kids got an upgraded version of the
Yes.
Chromebook. So this came up, and I'm just putting it out in the universe. It came up with a couple of teachers and then a couple of parents that the Chromebooks can't toggle, the Chromebooks inside the high schools now, or the middle schools, whatever it is, sometimes struggle with the translation services, and running that is an upgraded option, something that would help that? Is that?
That I wouldn't know, I would have to, I will talk to Dan, to see, and we're to show for them. Because, they're in the building though?
Yeah, so
They're within our building.
It was a few parents that, and then there was obviously adults. It was at the, I can't remember the name of the event. It was wonderful. It was at Byersfield. We had the cultural fair. And that's where the conversations were had about how the different, just sometimes it would crash, and then the kids were on their phone trying to do the translation.
Right.
Instead of being able to do it on that, just the toggling back and forth. So I didn't know if that was just, that's a heavy load, to do no matter what, so I didn't know if it was even.
More than likely, that is true what it is. Do we have the upgraded Chromebooks? We didn't buy a lot more than what we had as far as PVLA students, but we certainly can have that conversation.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I just thought a Chromebook was a Chromebook was a Chromebook, so that's what piqued my interest about the Chromebooks. That's it. That's all I have. Thank you for everything.
Well, once again, I'm overwhelmed with everything that you do, Mrs. Vanek, and the scope of all of this. I wish people widely understood how much more there is that has to be done in the school district in order to make it function. I always think about, the rubber meets the road with a student and a teacher in a classroom, and I absolutely believe that. but in society and government today, there's so much more for that to happen. And I think your background really supports that too, because you understand the teaching part and what the schools are going through, both teachers and administrators, and that's really great. So it's just so much that has to be done, and a lot of these are legal issues. It's not like, oh, it's just making things easier. These are things you have to do in order to be in compliance with the law. So thank you for handling all of that as remarkably as you do. I love the attention to the money-saving measures. You know, the things looking ahead to see what you can do to bring certain things back in-house that we could do here so we don't have to pay somebody else to do. I think that's great. And, I love that. And I like the philosophy of customer service. I think that's really great, because that's an important part of what we do as a school district, and this is a big deal. And I will tell you, I did not know about door number 50. I have had the great good fortune of having Mrs. Bartkowski to listen to me when I'm in a panic over my device not working. And she's always gets it taken care of for me. But door 50 is available to anybody that's got problems. That's awesome.
And moving forward at Arlington too, it'll be the same thing. We will have, it won't be called door 50, it's gonna always be called door 50. It'll be, you'll be able to walk in the main entrance and ask somebody, can we talk to a tech? And there's always going to be someone there who can assist.
Oh, and it's just fantastic, and being in the buildings in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
It's gotta be really great for kids and staff. So, I think that's it. I'm just still swimming about the 6,081,163 copies.
That's a lot of paper.
That's a lot. But thank you for what you do. It's overwhelming and it's technical and hard to understand for a lot of folks, including me, but I realize it has to be done, and thank you for taking such good care of it.
Thank you.
So all the data that the state uses, you're the one that compiles all that and sends that? Well, I mean, everybody sends it to you, and then you put it together, and then you send it down?
Yes, a lot of it's entered into our e-school already. So I'll give an example. If I'm an English language student, you toggle it in there, and then it all goes up, and then we get errors that we have to correct, and it goes back, but that goes to, everything about staff.
Because because the state report card came out, and, the state report card tells a story, but it doesn't tell the story. The data behind it does, so I need a hobby. I've been spending my evenings going through, oh my God, there's so much data on there that I just can't imagine you guys having to collect all that stuff, get that stuff right, and send that in there, because I've spent hours and hours and hours, and I haven't even made a dent in the past 5 years of that data. It's crazy how much is in there.
And we'll upload the assessment data, for once, and then I put it up, and then it sends us back reports that we have to then give them codes.
Well, thanks. You give me something to do when I'm bored at night.
So, I was gonna say,
I'm sure Kim is so happy about that.
You're newlywed, I'm sitting here thinking,
Maybe you should just call it Area 50, because it's where all like the stuff no one understands is, so that's what Arlington can be called.
Okay.
Great job, as always. The teachers that I know love the print shop. They really
Absolutely.
depend on it, and they rely on it, and it comes through for them every time. And I get it firsthand. So great job.
They do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing I want to add to is as complicated as her job is, it literally changes every year, because the state changes their mind and their reporting processes and their requirements. So it's already complex enough, but the constantly evolving guidelines make it that much harder. And again, I'm just very grateful for your attention to detail and all of your comprehensive work. Thank you, Dan.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Anything else there, Dr. Smiley?
First we have a couple rallies coming up, and we encourage everyone to come out in their green. If you don't have a green t-shirt and you would like one, please see me. We still have plenty. But from 12 to 2 on Saturday, from 4:30 to 6 on Monday evening, we will be at all three high schools and in front of Byers Field, and encourage anyone who wants to remind our Parma voters that we have issue 9 on the ballot. It's a great time to do so. Secondly, we still have this evening, believe it or not, we have a town hall at the conclusion of this meeting, followed by a Page community input meeting, and we will still hold both, although the town hall is scheduled to begin at 6:15, may need to begin a little bit late, so we're looking more like 6:30 for the town hall, and then we will move straight into the Page community input and look forward to both of those opportunities to engage with our community. Back to you, sir.
So where's the rally Saturday?
The rallies that are all three high schools and Byers Field. You can choose any of those.
Right. Very good. And on Monday, from when to when?
4:30 to 6 on Monday. 12 to 2 Saturday, 4:30 to 6 on Monday.
Yeah, I got that.
The teacher asked today if you'll have signs at the rallies, or do they need to?
They
bring
need
their
to bring
sign-
their own signs.
bring
We're
their
pretty
signs?
low on signs at
Okay.
this point. We've got 200 more today, but they're going quickly.
Okay.
We actually have about 100 addresses to still deliver to, which we will do tomorrow.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir. Communications, Mrs. Carpus?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, well, I do have a couple things I just want to mention is the high school plays.
Oh.
The high school plays coming up for Normandy is this weekend, 4th and 5th. And then Valley Forge and Parma are both on the same weekend, November 12th and 13th. So Midsummer Night's Dream is one.
The wizard one,
Wait a minute, I just saw it.
Puffs.
Puffs.
Puffs is
Puffs.
Parma High and Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, Alice in Wonderland, that was the other one, yeah. They all sound really fun. All right, so that's all I got, that's all I want to mention real quick.
Sounds
And then,
good.
Mr. Nucio, you have anything?
I do not.
Oh. All right. All right, this moves me to move to adopt resolution 2022-11-4119 to, no,
No.
I don't want that one. There are no amendments. Sorry.
Thank you.
Public participation. None. All right. Wait a minute, why didn't I approve the minutes?
We didn't have any because we had a meeting last week.
That was on Friday.
We're not done.
All right. Okay. All right, then, let's move on. We'll do the next thing, which will be curriculum. Mrs. Bratz.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. There are no items for curriculum this evening, so unless another board member has something to discuss, that will conclude curriculum.
Outstanding, thank you. That brings us to business, Mr. Ruda.
Yes, I move to adopt resolution 2022-11-420, approving pupil transportation agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-11-420. Any questions or comments from the board? And is this a supplement our current bus driving stuff, Dr. Swan?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. All right, that's all I wanted to know. All right, thank you. Roll call, Mr. Nusio.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, resolution 2022-11-420 has been approved.
Okay, unless anybody has anything to discuss, this concludes business.
Thank you, Mr. Ruda. Brings us finance, Mr. Price.
Yes, I'd like to move to adopt Resolution 2022-11-421, approval of supplemental appropriations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-11-421. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Nucio.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, resolution 2022-11-421 has been approved.
I'd like to move to adopt Resolution 2022-11-422, acceptance of contributions and donations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-11-422. Any questions or comments from the board? Steve says thank you to everybody. As called by Mr. Nucio and the agenda meeting. That's a lot of donations this time around. So very generous, very kind of you to remember Parma City Schools as you share your generosity. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
That I mimic your sentiments.
All right. Roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, resolution 2022-11-422 has been approved.
And unless another board member has anything to discuss, this concludes finance for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kreis. This brings us to legislation, Mrs. Carpus.
I have nothing today, but I will have a lengthy, comprehensive legislative review at the next meeting following Capitol Conference.
All right.
So unless any other board members.
I had some of that, they are talking about a lame duck session, and they're trying to get school districts to ask their representatives to push our agenda while it is a lame duck session, so they will talk about that probably at the Capitol Conference.
Thank you.
So you all have assignments when you get back.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Carpus. That brings us to Human Resources, Mrs. Bratz.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-11-423, approval of the following certificated exhibits: confirmation of stipend amounts, confirmation of supplemental appointments, acceptance of certificated resignation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-11-423. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-11-423 has been approved.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-11-424, acceptance of certificated retirement.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-11-424. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call, Ms. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-11-424 has been approved.
I move to adopt Resolution 2022-11-425, approval of the following classified exhibits: confirmation of classified appointments replacements, confirmation of change of classified assignment, confirmation of classified resignation, approval of classified non-compensated leave of absence.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-11-425. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-11-425 has been approved.
Unless another board member has something to discuss, that will conclude Human Resources for this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Bratz. Policies, Mrs. Carpus.
Yes, I move to adopt Resolution 2022-11-426, approval of the technical policy changes. Policy 0175.1, school board conferences, conventions, and workshop. Policy 1100, district organization. Policy 1110, assessment of the district goals. Policy 1350, incapacity of treasurer. Policy 5771, search and seizure. Policy 6440, cooperative purchasing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2022-11-426. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
I'm sorry, who's the second? I didn't- Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes?
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes, Resolution 2022-11-426 has been approved.
Unless any other board members have anything to discuss, this concludes policy.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Carpus. Any information requested by board members?
I have something I have to, so the legislative update for the platform things that are going to be proposed has not been released yet. I was hoping it's going to be released today so we could talk about it. It is not, so the minute it does, this is for OSBA as the delegate, the minute it does, I will send it to everybody so you guys can take a look at it. If you have anything you want to discuss, call me, and then if we need to have another meeting before, then we could, but I'm hoping that, just conversations, but the minute I get it, I will get it to everybody.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody else? No? Okay, so are there any questions or concerns to be read in the record? No, nothing? Okay, we don't need this part. I do want to say something real quick before I go to the next thing. Is I'm hoping that I get to sit here at our next meeting and thank the voters for getting their oars in the water and rowing the boat and getting into the right direction, and that we pass this levy or a bond issue on the 8th. So I'm hoping that's what I get to say when I'm here. So Tuesday, sorry, not Monday. All right, the 8th, November 8th is election day. Go out and vote. let's hope this passes, and I can say nice things.
Also, check your polling locations, because if you do not vote, if you're in Seven Hills particularly, and you were used to going to Hillside, the new polling location is at Seven Hills Rec Center.
Same with NEO.
And NEO. So if you were at Hillside or at NEO, you're going to the Seven Hills Rec Center now.
Anything else? Okay, great. Okay, so I move to adopt resolution 2022-11-428 to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-11-428. Roll call, Mr. Nucio.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes?
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Ruda.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.